we launched the first Catalyst MENA Climate Fund in 2016 to invest across the MENA region in climate infrastructure, mainly renewable energy. The MENA region was one of the last regions in the world to pursue renewable energy for power, and it has one of the lowest percentages of renewable energy in the electricity mix. Less than 4% today. When we started, it was close to 1.5% of all the electricity is coming from renewable. So it's still very low. And that's why we focused in this area in the MENA region. Each country is at a different stage in terms of their renewable programs. So Jordan, which was our core market, started in 2012 with PPAs in 2014 for solar PV. Morocco started earlier in wind and CSP, and these have been the two regional leaders in utility scale programs in MENA. Other countries like Egypt have progressed a lot in the last years, and there's still some countries that are close to zero, just very, very early stage, and it's a blank slate. Tunisia just started very recently. Algeria is planning to start big, has not yet. This is just some of the kind of profile of interesting areas in the region. See, the biggest challenge is when a country is starting in its programs, there's a lot of awareness to be built. So the government personnel, the capacity, the knowledge base, especially if they haven't done private sector projects for fossil fuel plants, for general power or general water, for them to jump right into private sector partnerships for renewable energy takes time in terms of their knowledge base, the processes, the agreements being bankable. And there we find players like the IFC and the EIB taking very proactive roles, the EBRD, OPIC, DFC, with these governments to help them build that capacity, make sure their agreements are actually commercially viable to attract investors like us. So bottom line, it's patience. You need patience during this first phase, and that's the biggest, I'd say, challenge. Once a market has bankable agreements like a Jordan, like an Egypt, like a Morocco, now a Tunisia, then the challenge becomes more on execution and really keeping the government honoring, let's say, the contracts per se. Because as you have changes in governments and you have a successful private sector program happening, and it's a win-win, you start having challengers in the government that say maybe it's too successful. Maybe we should kind of increase certain charges, make it more difficult. So I think that's a challenge we're starting to see in some places. I think it's an exciting time. And if many years ago, in telecommunications, you had fixed lines and then mobile phones came out, and some of the emerging countries jumped directly to mobile without having fixed lines everywhere. And today, everyone just uses a mobile. The point is that sometimes you have a special opportunity to advance faster, to leapfrog in technology. If you're so far behind, like most emerging markets are far behind, you have an opportunity to adopt something newer and better from the beginning. And I think that's what we need to be thinking about in our emerging markets, in our developing countries in Africa, that we don't have to go through the same path that older economies went through. We can potentially take some of the latest advances sooner than them because we don't have all that backlog and baggage of old industry already in place. We had very little. That's the challenge. So we can jump to, for example, renewable energy that's decentralized with storage where the prices are coming down. And let's focus on getting a more competitive cost of storage. And we can jump to that without having to have kind of conventional power plants, and then some of it being renewables, right? So we can advance, we can move faster to electric vehicles, because maybe we don't have all the transport infrastructure in place. So we can jump to the next thing, as opposed to adopt the old thing and then try to transition, right? So we can kind of accelerate our progress. In many cases, it can cost less and make more financial sense to do that.